What if a US president lost an election but refused to leave office? Could they actually stay in power? Would the military back them up? And what does the Constitution say happens next? Every time I make a video about a constitutional amendment and why it prevents something from happening, I inevitably get comments like these. There will be no elections in 2028. Trump will simply carry on ruling the USA in the form of a dictatorship. He can do it because he is above the law and he has the entire Supreme Court in his pocket and has total support from the Grand Old Party and MAGA. This is a real comment, by the way, and so are all of these. Real comments from real people. So I'm saying enough is enough. We're answering this right now. Today, we're breaking down what would really happen if a sitting president tried to hold on to power illegally. And before one half of America jumps down my throat, I will preface all of this video by saying our current president has already stepped down once before in 2020. If he did it then, why are you so worried about him not doing it this time? See, I got you Republicans. But for educational purposes, let's just call this an exercise in theoretical civics, break it all down, and set the record straight. So according to the 20th Amendment, every president's term ends at noon on January 20th, no matter what.
Please raise
Watch
your
carefully.
right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
You see, this moment isn't symbolic, it's legal. Even if a president refused to concede or barricaded themselves in the Oval Office, the instant the clock strikes noon, their authority vanishes and the new guy assumes command. Here's a look at the actual wording of the 20th Amendment. Section 1. The terms of the president and the vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January. At that exact second, the new president automatically gains power. There's no pause, no gap, no what-if clause. The old president becomes a private citizen, and any attempt to act as president would be hilarious. I mean illegal. That would be like you or me, private citizens, attempting to act as president. Nobody would follow our commands. But even before Inauguration Day, things are happening to ensure a president will step down. Congress certifies the election by counting the electoral votes on January 6. While this date is not set in the Constitution itself, it is under federal law, primarily the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and its modern update, the Electoral Count Reform and Presidential Transition Improvement Act of 2022. The date of the meeting to count electoral votes and the procedural rules, like how objections are made, are spelled out. Now, the power to count up the votes is in the Constitution, and it's added in the 12th Amendment. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. That means Congress is constitutionally required to meet in joint session and count electoral votes, and that count is final. Now, the losing president can dispute it, right? They can go to court, but once the results are certified in the courts and it's found that the incumbent president has lost, there's no legal path to stay in power. Okay, let's get back to the theoreticals because I know you're thinking the president could just ignore this process altogether. So once Congress certifies the vote, it has fulfilled its constitutional duty. If the outgoing president refuses to step down, Congress can actually do a few things. They can pass a concurrent resolution affirming the legitimacy of the new president. This doesn't do anything more than write it down on paper, but it's a thing they can do. They can also summon an oversight hearing or direct federal agencies to act according to law. And finally, in an extreme case, they could consider impeachment or referral for criminal prosecution if all of this is happening before noon on January 20th. If the president said, "I will not leave, you're going to have to drag me out of here," and Congress believed it, then they could think about this scenario. Now, Congress's power is declarative and legitimizing. While it might not seem like much, they establish who the lawful president is, setting the foundation for every other branch to act. Speaking of, courts can do a few things as well in this situation. They can issue orders confirming that the ex-president has no legal authority, and if the ex-president defies these rulings, the courts can then direct federal marshals to enforce them. Remember, courts are not in charge of removing someone physically, but their rulings authorize enforcement actions. Okay, the other two branches might oppose a president not giving up power, but what about the executive branch itself and all of these departments that work directly under it? This is the branch that seems most likely to align with the president and stay loyal, even in the face of constitutional illegality. Let's start with the bodyguards. The Secret Service has one of the most important jobs on January 20th. At noon, their chain of command instantly switches to the new president. The team that is protecting the outgoing president now serves as a former president detail, not as guards of the Oval Office. This is a pretty big distinction. Now, when everything is normal, the schedule goes like this. The outgoing president and family typically leave the White House around 8 to 10 a.m. for a farewell event. The incoming president arrives at around 11 a.m. for the inauguration. The White House staff, with coordination from the Secret Service, military office, and White House residence team, quietly switch over security credentials, access codes, and communication systems. By noon, the White House is considered the secured residence of the new president. The outgoing president no longer has authorized access, even if they try to return that afternoon. But here's where things get interesting. If the outgoing president refuses to leave, then the agents assigned to the outgoing president, remember them, the ones that are now serving as a former president detail, they also lose White House access privileges at noon. In fact, they lose access to everything, including Air Force One and classified areas. And the smaller things, like their call signs, vehicles, and clearance levels are all changed or revoked by the afternoon. The new president's detail, in coordination with the White House security branch, would secure the grounds. And at that point, the outgoing president is legally a private citizen, and if they remain in the White House, they are trespassing on federal property. The Secret Service, whose job it is to secure that property, could then escort them out, using lawful, measured force if necessary. And no, it would not look like a dramatic arrest. It would likely be handled quietly, with coordination from the Secret Service Director, the White House Chief of Staff, and the Department of Justice. Right? The goal is to remove the individual peacefully and discreetly, and please, sir, don't embarrass yourself any further. And in case you were wondering, the outgoing president keeps Secret Service protection for life as a private citizen, unless they decline it. Only one comes to mind right now, and that was Nixon. There are, of course, other protections that change besides Secret Service bodyguards. Immediately after noon, several automated systems are triggered. Access codes for doors, elevators, and communication devices are reset. Radio call signs for the president's protective team are reassigned to the new code name. For example, code name of Lancer will now be updated for the new president to be Eagle. The actual names are classified. Perimeter Control Authority transfers to the new protective detail. These are the dudes on the outside of the building. If you've ever been to the White House, you see these guys walking the grounds inside and just outside of the fence. Classified communication lines like the hotlines and the Situation Room systems reroute to the new president's command structure. So again, even if the outgoing president had stayed put, the systems would no longer recognize him. And there are other teams involved in this handoff as well. This handoff event is known as a National Special Security Event, or NSSE, which is the highest level of coordinated federal security and includes partners like the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, Capitol Police, Department of Defense, and the Metropolitan Police Department. Now, during an NSSE, all these agencies answer to a unified command center. That means any potential standoff or crisis is handled through joint coordination with clear rules of engagement and communication lines. This is not something that the Secret Service could say, hey everyone, just sit this out, we got this. The FBI, Capitol Police, Department of Defense, they're all going to be on the scene trying to figure out what to do. And every 4 years, the Secret Service actually rehearses this transition of power to the minute, including contingencies for medical emergencies, security breaches, and yes, refusal to leave scenarios. Look at this group here. Look at them. They don't improvise or draw plays out in the dirt during the transfer of power. They follow a written presidential transition protection plan reviewed by the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the National Security Council. They have one standing rule, and it's very simple. protection follows authority. Once the lawful authority changes, as it says in the Constitution, so does the protection. It's one of the clearest examples of how the United States institutions follow law, not loyalty. Okay, and I see you back there. Yes, you. I'm sure you're thinking right now, but what if the president has the army in his back pocket? They can overpower all of these agencies combined. Well, the U.S. military swears an oath to the Constitution, not to any individual. Here it is in black and white. I, your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. And it was really weird, but as I was reading that on mic, I had my hand up for some reason. And by the way, if you, the watcher of this video, have taken this oath, I'd just like to take a moment with all of the other watchers of this video to thank you for your service. Okay, so the oath means soldiers follow lawful orders, not personal loyalty. If the first line of the oath is followed and the Constitution is upheld, then all members of the military should recognize that the former president no longer has authority and that the new president is the one whose commands they need to follow. At noon, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and every commander recognizes the new president as their commander-in-chief. Any orders from the outgoing president would be ignored as unlawful. You're thinking, well, the president has nuclear codes. He doesn't need the military. Now, these nuclear codes are carried in the football, and they actually immediately transfer to the new president. And the old codes are deactivated. And I see everyone else looking around right now confused over the term the football. The nuclear football is the nickname for a black leather briefcase carried by a military aide who is always near the President of the United States. It's officially called the Presidential Emergency Satchel, which I think is a little bit more lame than the nuclear football. It includes the Black Book of Strike Options, which outlines pre-planned nuclear response scenarios, a list of secure bunkers and relocation sites where the president could be taken in an emergency, communication and authentication materials, which are instructions for contacting the National Military Command Center in the Pentagon, and codes and encryption tools for authenticating the president's identity. Yes, it's really me. The nuclear football does not, however, include the biscuit, which is a small plastic card containing the president's personal nuclear launch codes. The president carries it separately, usually on their person. I just wanted to clear that up. It seems like in this emergency doomsday scenario black bag, you should also pack snacks, but that's just me. Okay, everyone, when we say the codes are automatically changed, this is one of the things we're referring to. The codes in the president's pocket on the biscuit become invalid. Let's see, have we left anyone out? Okay, the White House itself, the building, it rejects the old president almost immediately. Behind the scenes, the transition is surprisingly mechanical. Passwords are reset, access cards stop working, government computers automatically revoke the old president's credentials, and even the phone lines are rerouted. Within minutes, the new administration takes full control of communications, intelligence briefings, and the residence itself. The outgoing president's things? Yeah, they're packed and delivered elsewhere. For your viewing pleasure, here's the hour-by-hour schedule that happens. Every branch knows exactly what to do, and they all operate independently to uphold the Constitution. This is that famous Montesquieu idea of separation of powers. Now, could things get ugly? Yes, there could be political chaos or protests. But institutionally, the system is clear. The presidency belongs to the person elected, not the one who refuses to leave. And because each branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, the military, and law enforcement, all act on their own authority, no single person can hold the government hostage. You would need to have all of these on the list in your pocket, on board with you and what you're about to do, and also on board with disregarding the will of the people in order to make this work. Look, the framers of the Constitution built the presidency to belong to the office, not the individual. I'm a huge fan of the framers, and if you're a subscriber to my channel, you know this. Both the Federalists and even more so, the Anti-Federalists wanted to be sure to limit the power of the executive branch. And the framers all shared a common fear, that being an executive branch with too much power. That's why every oath in government, whether it's military, judicial oaths, or legislative oath, is a promise to protect the Constitution itself, not protect the president. Even in the most extreme scenario, the system doesn't rely on one person's willingness to obey. It relies on everyone else's willingness to uphold the law. So, if a president ever tried to overstay their time in office, the law wouldn't wait for them to leave. It would move on without them. I also want to give out a huge shout out to my Patreon cabinet members, Howard and Kevin. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to support this channel, becoming a member on my Patreon is the best way to do it. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. We'll make more videos soon.